Most people stop when they're tired. David Goggins stops when he's done. And sometimes, he's never done. David Goggins isn't just another motivational speaker. He's a man who's lived at the extreme edge of human possibility. A Navy SEAL, an ultramarathon runner, a pull-up world record holder, and a man who has pushed his body and mind through unimaginable pain. But here's the thing. Goggins didn't start as a warrior. He started as a broken, overweight, insecure young man with every reason to give up. Growing up, Goggins faced abuse at home, racism in his community, and crippling self-doubt in his own mind. By his early 20s, he was working as an exterminator, overweight with no clear future. One night, he saw a TV documentary about the Navy SEALs, the toughest military training on Earth, and something clicked. He realized he had been living at a fraction of his potential. And in that moment, he made a choice: to become the hardest man alive. In just 3 months, he lost over 100 pounds. He entered and survived the brutal SEAL training not once but 3 times. He went on to complete some of the world's most grueling endurance races, often with broken bones, bleeding feet, and torn muscles. And he did it all with one goal: to prove that the limits we believe in are lies. But here's the real reason Goggins matters. It's not just his achievements. It's the mindset he built to achieve them. 3 powerful principles guide everything he does. Callus your mind, embrace the suck, and the cookie jar. These aren't just slogans, they are mental weapons. And when you understand them, you can apply them to your own life. Whether you're running a business, chasing a dream, or simply trying to become a better version of yourself. This is the story of David Goggins, and how you can become a man without limits. This is not a story about natural talent. It's not about luck. It's about what happens when you refuse to accept your limits, when you decide to build a version of yourself that no one can break. David Goggins wasn't born a Navy SEAL. He wasn't born a world-class athlete. He wasn't even born with confidence. In fact, his early life looked like the complete opposite of greatness. He was born on February 17, 1975, in Buffalo, New York. His childhood was shaped by chaos: an abusive father, constant fear at home, and poverty. At school, he faced racism and bullying daily. He struggled with learning disabilities, often feeling like he didn't belong anywhere. By the time most kids were dreaming big, Goggins was just trying to survive. As a young adult, life didn't get much better. In his early 20s, Goggins was working as a pest exterminator, spraying for cockroaches in restaurants and homes. He was overweight, out of shape, and stuck in a cycle of self-doubt. At 300 pounds, running even a single mile felt impossible. Then came the turning point. One night, while working, he stumbled upon a documentary about Navy SEAL training. Hell Week, freezing cold ocean swims, men breaking down from exhaustion. Something inside him snapped. He realized he had been living at maybe 40% of his true potential. And in that moment, he decided to rewrite his life. The challenge? He had to lose more than 100 pounds in just 3 months to even qualify for SEAL training. Most people would have said it was impossible. Goggins didn't care. He woke up at 4 a.m., ran for hours, biked for miles, and pushed his body past breaking point. By the end of those 3 months, he had transformed himself. Not just physically, but mentally. But the road didn't get easier. Goggins failed SEAL training twice due to injuries and had to start over each time. He endured Hell Week, the most brutal military training in the world, 3 times. Most people break. Goggins didn't. He graduated as a Navy SEAL, later served as an Army Ranger, and even trained with the Air Force as a tactical air controller. After the military, he turned to ultra-endurance sports, running 100-plus mile races, completing triathlons, and setting the Guinness World Record for most pull-ups in 24 hours, 4,030. Many of these feats he did with serious injuries: fractured bones, torn muscles, powered only by his mind. Today, David Goggins is a best-selling author, speaker, and living embodiment of discipline and mental toughness. His story isn't about talent. It's about choice. The choice to stop making excuses. The choice to embrace pain. The choice to become a man without limits. David Goggins often says, "Your mind is like your hands. You work hard enough, they get calluses. They protect you. They make you stronger. Your mind works the same way, but only if you train it." Callousing your mind means building mental armor through repeated exposure to discomfort. Just like physical calluses come from friction and pressure, mental calluses come from facing challenges, failing, and getting back up, again and again. Why this matters? Most people live their lives trying to avoid pain. They seek comfort, and when life gets hard, they stop. The problem is, life doesn't care about your comfort zone. If you're not mentally tough, you'll break the first time you face something truly hard. Goggins learned this the hard way. Growing up, he was soft. Not because he wanted to be, but because he never faced challenges head-on. The moment he started pushing himself, he realized pain wasn't something to run from. It was something to train with. The core idea is when you face something uncomfortable, whether it's a freezing morning run, a difficult conversation, or a big business risk, your brain screams for you to stop. That's your weak voice. Every time you listen to it, you reinforce weakness. But every time you ignore it and push forward, you add another callus to your mind. Over time, you stop being surprised by hardship, you expect it, and you're ready for it. Before becoming a Navy SEAL, Goggins hated running. He wasn't a natural athlete. But to qualify, he had to run dozens of miles a week. First, it was torture. Every step hurt. His lungs burned. His legs ached. His brain screamed, "Stop!" But he kept going. Mile after mile, day after day, his body adapted, but more importantly, his mind adapted. The pain didn't go away. He just learned to control his response to it. By the time he entered Hell Week, 5.5 days of no sleep, freezing water, and endless physical punishment, he was ready. Not because he was the strongest or fastest, but because he had trained his mind to handle suffering without breaking. The good news is you don't have to run 100 miles or join the military to do this. You can start right now with small, daily challenges that push your comfort zone. Here are 3 ways to begin. Do something hard every day. Wake up earlier than you want to. Take a cold shower. Push your workout past the point you feel like quitting. It doesn't have to be extreme, it just has to be uncomfortable. Seek out friction. Avoiding challenges keeps you weak. Say yes to the tasks you normally avoid. Volunteer for the hard job at work. Have the conversation you've been dreading. Every time you face friction, you add a layer of toughness. Document your wins. Keep track of the moments you push through discomfort. This creates a log of mental reps that prove you're stronger than you think. Later, when you're facing something bigger, you'll be able to look back and say, "I've done hard things before. I can do this too." Neuroscience backs up what Goggins teaches. Repeated exposure to controlled stress, what psychologists call stress inoculation, literally rewires your brain. You become less reactive to discomfort because your nervous system learns that you can survive and function under pressure. This is why callousing your mind works. You're training your brain to see pain as information, not as a stop sign. Most people will never callous their minds. They'll live their lives avoiding pain, and as a result, they'll crumble when life inevitably gets hard. Goggins' lesson is simple but brutal. Do something that sucks every day. That's how you build the armor you need for life. When you consistently step into discomfort, you stop being surprised by it. And when life throws its hardest punches, you don't just take them, you swing back. David Goggins has a phrase that's simple, harsh, and unforgettable. Embrace the suck. In plain language, it means this: stop wishing things were easier. Stop waiting for comfort. Accept the pain, the cold, the exhaustion, and make it your ally. What it really means is most people fight against discomfort. They resist it, complain about it, or try to escape it. But when you fight pain, you waste energy. When you accept it, even welcome it, you take away its power. Embrace the suck isn't about loving misery for no reason. It's about understanding that struggle is where you grow. If you can learn to work while you're cold, wet, tired, and hurting, you'll never be controlled by those conditions again. One of the clearest examples of this principle comes from Goggins' time in Navy SEAL Hell Week. 5.5 days of almost no sleep, constant physical punishment, and bone-chilling cold. During one of these nights, Goggins and his team were ordered into the Pacific Ocean, where the water temperature was barely above freezing. The instructors told them to stay waist-deep for hours. The wind was cutting through them like knives. Goggins looked around and saw the faces of men on the edge of quitting. Teeth chattering, lips blue, bodies shaking uncontrollably. Most people in that moment would pray for warmth. But Goggins did something different. He smiled. He leaned into the suffering. He told himself, "This is where we separate ourselves from the rest. This is the moment that makes me harder than anyone else." By reframing the pain as an advantage instead of a punishment, he robbed it of its control over him. Pain is inevitable, whether it's physical pain in a race, emotional pain from rejection, or mental strain from a hard project. But suffering, that's optional. Suffering happens when you resist the pain, when you wish it wasn't there. By embracing it, you remove the emotional weight. The pain is still there, but you're not fighting it anymore, you're using it. You don't have to be in a military boot camp to embrace the suck. You can start in your daily life with simple but intentional changes. Stop complaining in hard moments. The next time you face a challenge, whether it's a tough workout, a stressful deadline, or an unexpected setback, resist the urge to say, "This sucks." Instead, think, "This is where I grow." Find the lesson in the pain. Every difficult situation has something to teach you: discipline, patience, problem solving. Focus on what you can learn instead of how you feel. Smile in discomfort. This is a Goggins trademark. Smiling when you're in pain tricks your brain into associating discomfort with strength and resilience. Imagine you're running a business and sales drop suddenly. The average person panics, complains, maybe even gives up. The embrace the suck mindset says, "Good, this is my training ground. If I can build under pressure, I can build in any condition." Or maybe you're training for a marathon and it starts pouring rain during your run. Most people head home. You keep going. You understand that this is an opportunity to train in conditions others avoid, giving you an edge. Sports psychologists call this cognitive reappraisal, the ability to reinterpret a stressful situation in a way that makes it less threatening. By reframing discomfort as an opportunity, you literally change how your brain and body respond to it. Your stress hormones drop, your focus sharpens, and your endurance improves. This is why embrace the suck is so powerful. You're not just surviving discomfort. You're using it to make yourself unstoppable. Most people see pain as the enemy. Goggins sees it as a training partner. Every moment of misery is a chance to build a weapon that comfort could never give you. In his words, "When you think you've done enough, you're only at 40%. Keep going. Smile in the pain. That's where you find out who you are." Embrace the suck, and you'll discover that the situations most people run from are the very ones that make you limitless. In the middle of a 100-mile ultramarathon, David Goggins was done. His legs were cramping. His feet were blistered and bleeding. His lower back felt like it was on fire. He still had miles to go, and every cell in his body was screaming for him to quit. Most people would have, but Goggins had one more trick left. He reached into something he calls the cookie jar. It's not the cookie jar you had as a kid, full of chocolate chips and sugar. Goggins' cookie jar is a mental storage container, filled not with snacks, but with every hard challenge he's ever overcome, every victory he's ever earned, every moment where he pushed past what he thought was possible. When things get dark, and they always do in big challenges, Goggins reaches in and pulls out one of these memories. He relives it, step by step, feeling the pride and strength he had in that moment. And just like that, he reminds himself, "I've been here before. I've done worse. I can do this." The cookie jar works because it taps into proof, your own personal evidence that you are capable of more than your mind wants you to believe. In extreme moments, your brain is a liar. Tells you you're done when you're not. Says you can't go further when you can. The cookie jar is your counterargument, a record of your wins that destroys those lies. In Hell Week, when Goggins' body was breaking down, he thought back to losing 100 pounds in 3 months. That memory reminded him of the discipline and suffering he had already mastered. In a 24-hour pull-up challenge, when his hands were torn and bleeding, he thought back to the time he completed a 50-mile race with broken bones. That gave him the mental fuel to keep pulling until he set a world record. Your brain is wired to focus on threats and failures, a survival instinct from thousands of years ago. But this means that in tough moments, you're more likely to remember your defeats than your victories. The cookie jar flips that instinct. By intentionally revisiting your wins, you give your brain a surge of confidence, reminding it that you've endured worse and survived. You don't need to be a Navy SEAL or an ultra-endurance athlete to create one. All you need is a record of moments when you overcame something hard. Here's how to start. List your past wins. Think of every challenge you've ever overcome, big or small. Running your first 5K, getting through a breakup, pushing through a tough exam, losing weight, quitting a bad habit. Be specific. Don't just write, "I passed the exam." Write the whole scene, the late nights, the doubts, the pressure, the moment you finished. Details make it powerful. Keep it accessible. You can write it in a notebook, on your phone, or just memorize it. The point is to be able to reach in instantly when you need it. Add to it regularly. Every new victory, no matter how small, goes in the jar. Over time, it becomes a powerful library of your resilience. Let's say you're running your first marathon and at mile 20 your legs feel like concrete. Your brain starts whispering you can't finish. That's when you reach into the jar and remember the time you ran 10 miles in the pouring rain when you didn't even feel like getting out of bed. Suddenly, the finish line feels possible again. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur and your business is going through its hardest month yet. You reach into the jar and remember the time you landed your first client after dozens of rejections. That reminder fuels your persistence now. Psychologists call this retrieval of mastery experiences, the act of recalling past successes to boost confidence and resilience in current challenges. Studies show that when you vividly remember overcoming something difficult, your brain releases dopamine, the motivation neurotransmitter, and reactivates the same neural pathways you used during that original success. This isn't just feel-good nostalgia. It's a biological performance boost. Goggins says, "Life will always find a way to test you. The cookie jar is proof that you've passed tests before, and you can pass this one too." In that 100-mile race, when his body was screaming for him to stop, he didn't think about the pain. He thought about every mile he'd run before, every night he'd spent in the cold ocean, every pull-up he'd done with bleeding hands. Each memory was a cookie, and with every cookie, he found the strength to keep going. The cookie jar is your personal arsenal of resilience. It's there when your motivation is gone. It's there when your body wants to quit. It's there when the voice in your head says you can't. And it answers back, yes, you can. You already have. Start building yours today. Because when the moment comes, and you'll need something powerful to reach for. And nothing is more powerful than the proof that you've been unstoppable before. By now, you've seen each of David Goggins' 3 main principles. Callus your mind. Embrace the suck. The cookie jar. Individually, they're powerful. But when you put them together, they form a complete mental toughness system. One that can carry you through any challenge in life. Step 1. Callus your mind, the foundation. Think of callus your mind as the training ground. This is where you start. You intentionally expose yourself to discomfort every single day. Small challenges, big challenges, anything that forces you out of your comfort zone. It's like building a shield. At first, it's thin and fragile. But with each challenge you push through, you add another layer. Soon, life's little inconveniences barely register. And when the big storms come, you're ready. Without this foundation, the other principles can't work. You can't embrace suffering if you've never faced it. You can't draw strength from your past if you've never earned victories. Mental calluses are what make the next steps possible. Step 2. Embrace the suck, the battlefield mindset. Once you've built some calluses, life will still throw you into situations that hurt. This is where embrace the suck kicks in. You stop wasting energy wishing things were easier. You stop asking, "Why me?" Instead, you lean into the discomfort and think, "Good, this is my moment." Here's how they connect. Callousing your mind gives you the capacity to handle pain. Embracing the suck gives you the attitude to use it. When Goggins was waist-deep in freezing water during Hell Week, his mental calluses kept him from panicking. But it was his embrace the suck mindset that turned that misery into motivation. Step 3. The cookie jar, the fuel. Even with calloused mental armor and the right mindset, There will be times when you're at your absolute limit. The pain will be overwhelming, your motivation gone, your willpower drained. This is where the cookie jar saves you. It's the reserve tank, the personal library of every hard thing you've ever overcome. You've calloused your mind through repeated challenges. You've learned to embrace the suck when you're in the fight. Now, when things are darkest, you reach into the jar and pull out proof that you can go further. It's the final piece of the puzzle, the spark that lights the fire when everything else feels cold. Let's say you decide to run your first marathon. Callous your mind. Months before race day, you train in all conditions. Early mornings, pouring rain, sore legs. Each day adds a layer of mental armor. Embrace the suck. On race day, the weather is brutal and the hills feel endless. You don't complain, you smile. You accept the pain as part of the process. The cookie jar. At mile 22, when your legs want to quit, you think back to the time you ran your longest training run in freezing temperatures. That memory gives you the fuel to push through the final miles. The principles work in sequence: foundation, mindset, fuel. Why this combination is unstoppable. Most people fail in hard situations because they rely on motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It's easy to feel pumped up when things are going well. But when life gets ugly, motivation disappears. What Goggins offers is different. A system that works even when you feel nothing. Callous your mind makes pain familiar. Embrace the suck makes pain acceptable. The cookie jar makes pain survivable. Together, they create a feedback loop. Each challenge you face adds to your mental calluses, which makes it easier to embrace the next suck, which adds more victories to your cookie jar. The more you live by these principles, the stronger the loop becomes. Think of these three principles as parts of the same machine. Callous your mind is the steel frame, the structure that can take hits. Embrace the suck is the engine, the power to keep moving forward under pressure. The cookie jar is the fuel tank, the stored energy that gets you through the longest, hardest stretches. Goggins didn't become a man without limits by accident. He built himself through this exact process, and the beauty of it is you can too. Every small discomfort you face today is a callus for tomorrow. Every hardship you accept without complaint makes you harder. Every victory you store in your jar is a weapon for the battles ahead. When you combine all three, you stop relying on luck or talent. You build a mind that doesn't break. And once you have that, there really are no limits. David Goggins' life is living proof that limits are rarely physical, they're almost always mental. His journey from an overweight, insecure, and hopeless man to one of the toughest endurance athletes on the planet is not a story of luck or talent. It's a story of discipline, grit, and the relentless application of three core principles. Callous your mind, embrace the suck, and the cookie jar. When you callous your mind, you stop expecting life to be easy and start preparing for its challenges. You build resilience the same way you build muscle, through repeated, deliberate stress. When you embrace the suck, you remove the illusion that discomfort is something to avoid. Instead, you see it as the very forge that creates strength. And when you use the cookie jar, you tap into the proof that you are capable, drawing on your own victories to fuel the next one. Individually, these principles are powerful. Together, they create a mindset where quitting is no longer an option and limitations are nothing more than self-imposed illusions. In Goggins' words, "You are in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft that you will die without ever realizing your true potential." Thanks for watching. Subscribe. See you in the next video.